It's Beyond the Box Art, where we talk glues, sprues, and the eternal mystery of where that tiny wheel just rolled off to. Please welcome your hosts, Paul Pendleton-Brown, Mike Baldwin, Mark Housley, Tim Mulvihill, and Paul Wong.
Hello Benchmates, and welcome to the very first episode of Beyond the Box Art. Originally, the plan was to hire a crack team of modelling experts to host this pod. Sadly, they all said no. So instead, you're stuck with us. A mixed bag of builders, tinkerers and creative minds who occasionally have an interesting idea. We've got wisdom, plenty of stories, and just enough overconfidence to make it sound like we know what we're talking about. Now, most pods would sensibly explain at this point what the pod's all about. Not us. Instead, we commissioned a song. It's big, it's cheesy, it's only slightly less tragic than an Australian Eurovision entry, and yes, it will be stuck in your head for days.
It's time to get loud, no holding back now. Beyond the box art, come join the crowd. Every 2 weeks we're dropping the beat. Modeling passion can't be beat. From on the bench where the magic began, brush in hand, let the journey spin. Young roll, we're hitting the mark. News, tips and tricks, igniting spark. Hairy sticks, painting with finesse. Airbrushing dreams, nothing but the best. Color washes flowing, making it pop. We're tearing it up, we'll not stop. Beyond the box art, come on, let's dive. In a world of scale, our passions thrive. Planes, trains, and tanks in the mix. Join us on this journey, it's all in the fix. With pride we create our hearts on display. In this hobby together, forever we'll play. Yeah, oh, we're hitting the mark. News, tips, and tricks, igniting the spark. Hairy sticks, painting with finesse. Airbrushing dreams, nothing but the best. Color washes flowing, making it pop. We're tearing it up, we'll never stop. Real space to sci-fi, our love spans galaxy-wide. Battlefields painted, we take it in stride. Every detail matters in this world we mold. A podcast of passion, watch our stories unfold. Young or old, we're hitting the mark. News, tips, and tricks, igniting the spark. Hairy sticks, painting with finesse. Airbrushing dreams, nothing but the best. Color washes flowing, making it pop. We're tearing it up, we'll never stop. Returning to the hobby of season pro. We'll guide you through, let your imagination flow. It's time to get loud, raise your voice crowd. Beyond the box art, come join the crowd.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Beyond the Box Art, a new scale modelling podcast based in Europe with a team of dedicated modelling pros. Some want to be pros and some complete idiots like myself. So we'll go around the room, just say hello to the guys we've got, which is a full house this evening. So Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim Mulvihill. Nice to see you.
That worked well on the Baldio podcast. Mark.
Hello everybody, my name's Mark Housley.
Hello, my name's Paul Wong, or Wongy.
Hello everybody, my name's Mike Baldwin and it's a pleasure to be here and speak to you all.
To give you an idea of who we are, what we are, we're just going to have a quick run round the table and hopefully you'll get an idea of the level of professionalism that we're actually going to be dealing with. So first on my screen, we've got Mr. Paul Wong.
I'm a grey-haired old return back to the hobby. It's one that I started back in the 70s. And now, after marriage, kids, they've all gone. I've now found my hobby again, and it's been a return for the last probably 10, 11 years. So it's good to speak to you all six of you.
You're many as six. You're aiming high for the first
Absolutely.
episode. Paul. Come on. Okay, next on the list we've got Mr. Housley. Mark.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mark Housley. Very much like Paul, I'm a child of the 70s. Started modelling when I was, I would say, 6 or 7. And unlike Paul, I never really stopped. So I kind of just carried on and did it. And half the time kept it quiet from a lot of my mates as it became more of an uncool thing to do. As kids and family and all the rest of it kind of went through, I sort of still stunk the house out occasionally with glue and paint. Not quite as often as I would have liked, but yeah, it was good. And here I am today, still starting them, not finishing many, but still keen as ever, really. Yeah. So hello to everyone.
Is there any truth in the rumour that your stash has actually got its own postcode?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It is beyond ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. I'm not proud of it.
Fantastic. Okay, and Tim.
Hello there, my name is Tim Morville. I very much represent the returning modeller. My colleagues here have stuck at it since being lads. I started modelling when I was about 10, but then different things got in the way, like girls and Joy Division. And I kind of came back to it in the 80s, stuck it for a couple of years, and then about 25 years ago, I bought an HMS Prince, which will be a running gag throughout this podcast, which I've just worked out is actually older than the footballer Erling Haaland. I've been back solid for about 10 years and hope to be modelling, well, for the rest, until I run out of glue.
And Mike.
I've been modelling now for the last 35 years. Got it hooked into it. My dad built models when I was a kid. They were always hung from my bedroom ceiling. Built my first model kit at the age of 4, which was a Matchbox P-70 Night Fighter, which is obviously based on the Boston. And I put that much cement into it that I gave the tyres the flat look, which was pretty dreadful. Continued through my childhood. Got fascinated with the Titanic at the age of 10, so started building multiple models of the Titanic. And then turned 13. I joined the Air Cadets, and it just carried on from there, entering competitions every year, winning quite a couple. Obviously, as a 13-year-old, it's quite chuffed. I did a little bit of an hiatus in my early 20s due to a relationship. She thought it was childish. So I had a little bit of an hiatus there, and then kicked it back up after that ended, and I've never looked back since. I'm into big scales, 32nd, 24th. Do the occasional 144th scale, which is a bit out of my comfort zone. But yeah, modelling is just the great relief. Busy work, come home and just unwind doing some modelling.
What's your main genre of build, Mike?
Whatever takes my fancy. So I have issues building German aircraft. For some reason, I can start them but never finish them. It just depends on what piques my interest. So if I'm reading a book and something picks up, it's generally that. Hunters, so basically Cold War jets, or Lightning, Hunters, Sea Vixen, Buccaneer, so mainly RAF and Fleet Air Arm. Some American, that's about it for aviation. Armour, I have dabbled a bit, mainly British armour, and ships. I have a fascination with boats from various genres. I've got a 200 scale Titanic waiting to be built, 200 scale HMS Hood with all the gubbins to go with it. So that's going to be a long project.
Fantastic. The last on the list for me is myself, Paul Pendleton Brown. My friends call me Brownie, so let's all be friends. I started back in the 70s as well. 1970s, not the 1870s, before anyone says. My first ever kit was a Frog Blackburn Buccaneer. Fantastic kit when it actually came out, but one that Novo seemed to actually overlook when they did all the re-releases of the Frog moulds. Back in the 80s, I actually started entering competitions when I was still in the junior category. Won a gold at an IPMS London event, and that was the last time I ever took part in a competition, as I was told by the organisers that if I'd actually entered in the seniors rather than juniors, I'd have won bronze for the actual competition, and that demotivated me so much I basically walked away from competitions completely. Work, day-to-day job is I'm manager of an air traffic unit, talking to airplanes, looking at airplanes all day, so my job is my hobby in some respect. And I got back into the hobby during COVID. I was looking for things to do whilst I actually sat at an airfield where there was virtually nothing moving but an air ambulance, and discovered something called On the Bench. So Digger Dave down in Australia, it's all your fault, and you will be coming onto the pod to have a discussion with us in the near future as recompense. But on the back of that, got back into the hobby seriously. I never stopped buying. I never stopped amassing the library and the information to actually build the models. The only thing I never had was the time to actually build them. So about a year ago, the fourth bedroom, which I think the best thing to actually describe the size of the room is a cupboard, was turned into the modelling den, and I've now started working on models for the first time in about 35 years. So where Tim says he's returning to the hobby, I really am returning to the hobby. So with Paul and with Mark, you've got quite an experienced running modelers with what they've actually done, what they've actually competitions they've actually participated in and been very successful at. You've got Tim, who's actually coming back to the hobby in inverted commas, and myself very much returning. But it's interesting looking at how modelling techniques have actually changed over the years, how what we did back in the 70s, the 80s, etc. You look at now and think, why is everyone actually building everything up from scratch in the first stages rather than actually masking off or actually painting before actually assembly? But we'll get back into that further down the pod. Okay, that's a little bit about us.
Well, yeah, I mean that was a life story. Then I thought, my God, about 2 minutes. I've got 2 minutes to try and get out what I want to say. But then, well done, Paul. So he's at it now.
So it's interesting, Paul, knowing what your first kit is. I just wonder what the other guys. What was your first kits?
I can show you mine. Oh, that was my first one. I can actually remember being bought an Airfix in the bag, bought and Paul Defiant, and it was only after I was talking about this last week when I thought I'm going to try and find it, see if I can buy one. So there it is. That's what I picked up for 15 quid. I thought, well, that'll do for me.
As opposed to 1 and 6 back in the day.
Well, it would have been, yeah. It was all money. It was, yeah. I don't know, 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember building it. I just remember standing, looking at it in awe, thinking, "Yep, that's for me." You know?
I think for me, the first kit I got was it was basically bought from Woolworths downstairs in Manchester. And it was the Airfix Joseph Stalin tank.
Oh my God.
Which was absolutely brilliant. Apart from I couldn't build it. It was just beyond my set skills as a beginner. But yeah, it basically did the job, which my granddad bought me, and it kept me quiet for a whole Saturday.
Yeah.
Trying to figure that one.
I had a kind of false start with modelling, going back to about 1972 when I was about 10 years old. My dad got me, I think it was a Tiger tank in a blister pack, Airfix. And I don't think my motor skills and enthusiasm were quite what they should have been. My dad had a go, but unfortunately, I had 2 fingers missing on his right hand. So that was,
dear me.
Yeah, it was.
Them scalpels, you know, bloody hell, it can be murder.
We were up against it there. So I think the whole lot landed in the bin. And then a couple of months later, the corner shop, when we had corner shops at the bottom of the street, Mrs. Fryer's, I always remember it, she started selling toys, novelties, Matchbox cars. That's where I got mine. And a bit of clever kind of marketing. We introduced us to Matchbox kits. And I must have been OCD because I bought PK1, the Hawker Fury, which I loved. And then the next week, PK2. PK3 I didn't bother with. It was another biplane and I'd had enough. So that was my kind of intro. And from then I was hooked. And saving all my Matchbox enthusiasm for perhaps another episode where we really do delve back into the mists of time with quite a lot of nostalgia.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of guys collecting that stuff nowadays, isn't there?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Collecting or building?
No, I mean,
well.
people have different attitudes. You mentioned Paul Brownie. You mentioned about building during the, and I built the Matchbox Mosquito, and I built it as it was straight out of the box, original decals, and posted it on one of the many Facebook sites. And somebody actually said, "But you've not painted it. That's just a waste of a kit." Said outraged of Hemel Hempstead.
Outrageous.
But I wanted to build it like I was 10 again. So I'm going misty-eyed and nostalgic again. So I'll hand back to you.
As they say, Tim, it's your kit.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's at the end of the day, it's your fun.
I do that quite regular. Sometimes I'll just bung something together just to get my mojo going a little bit. I don't have to worry about paint or anything, and it's usually something rubbish, to be honest with you. Something that's been hanging about, or a shelf queen for God knows how long, and I'll just stick it together and enjoy the building, really. And building was never my favorite. I was always more of a painter. I couldn't wait to get to the painting bit later in my modeling world, my modeling life, as it were. But yeah, every now and again, I just find it sort of gets those cobwebs away, and away I go again. It's good.
Palette cleanser quite often is a good way to actually get back into the seal of things.
This is Beyond the Box Art, where we sand, spray, stick and swear, usually in that order.
Okay, the hobby briefing. This is the part of the show where we bring to you all that's new in the hobby, from manufacturers' press releases, and here's a hint to manufacturers, add us to your distribution list for what's new so we can talk about it, and what we can glean from the internet and good old-fashioned detective work, covering kits, aftermarket and reference material. So we'll start off with aircraft news. Airfix has just released their brand new 148th Jag, the GR1 and GR1A, which is in this boxing. This kit's getting high praise already. The mouldings are superb and overall fit is very good. That said, you'll want to be careful around the joint between the front and main fuselage, which is where Mike has some experience. How did you get on with it, Mike?
Pretty well. You're just going to make sure. I did make a bit of a slight error by putting the air intakes on first. But if you make sure it's all flush and then glue it and then clamp it where the intakes are, it provides a better bond. There is something I have noticed, which is a bit of it's only because I've sprayed it white that I can see it. There is an actual ghost mould line on the fuselage that runs from just above the exhaust plates, and it runs across the fuselage and then runs further on. So there is something, just a bit of sandpaper, just give it a bit of a sand and it'll disappear. I've tried it on one side and literally 5 seconds it was gone. So it's just a little ghost line, especially if you're doing light colours, you will see it because it'll just make it look like a panel line when it's not.
Fantastic, that's a very useful tip. Also, aftermarket support is already booming for this one. Extra Decals announced 3 new decal sheets already Inside the Armour has released two 3D printed sets. One set upgrades the undercarriage legs, of which I believe there's some detail which is lacking in the Airfix mouldings at the top of the legs, which could do a little bit of a tweak. The other thing that Chris from ITA3 has added is the APU exhaust, which is inside the air brake, which is not that well depicted on the kit itself in comparison.
It's not, but the thing is, because of the gap that is housing the APU, it's very small. You can just make out that it's there, but because it's so crammed, again, it's just something that'll just make it that little bit more sweeter, more accurate.
The second set he's brought out is a setup for the engine exhausts, which look absolutely superb.
Stunning. They absolutely look superb. I seen them yesterday, and I thought, oh, they'll be a definitely welcome bonus to detailing it.
Absolutely, and I've already got my set of both already on the workbench ready for mine. Hopefully we'll have Chris Meddings from ITA3 on in a future episode to talk about 3D printing process and how he actually goes around the whole operation, so might be able to give you some tips, Mike, on how to be less heavy-handed.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next release expected imminently is the 148th two-seat Spitfire TR9, which is obviously the used by the Irish Air Corps post-war. And the box also comes with a set of decals for an aircraft used during the filming of the Battle of Britain movie, which was used as a camera ship. Dutch decals have also announced a new sheet that the Netherlands Air Force operated, so you should be able to get most of the military operators for the two-seaters covered by both extra decal and Dutch decal. Moving on, AMP from the Ukraine are releasing something very niche and fascinating, the 1/72nd scale Northrop HL-10 lifting body, which you might remember from the opening titles of the $6 Million Man. Great little subject, perfect for experimental aircraft and real space fans, and this will look fantastic mounted under the wing of a NASA B-52 as a little diorama set.
That was, if you remember the opening titles of that and the thing crashed, that was real, that actually.
Absolutely.
That was the actual footage.
Yeah. And the guy actually walked away from it and it didn't actually need to be turned into a cyborg, but it made for a good TV programme back in the 70s. Border has shared some more CAD renders of their upcoming 135th Heinkel 111 H6, which is due hopefully before the end of the year. Though I personally don't get the sudden fascination with 135th as a subject scale.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Why?
I think it's to do with a bit of a mixture of armour, because armour's primarily done in 35th, so it's very difficult to get a 32nd staff car, where there's 35th staff cars, especially for the German Luftwaffe. There's plenty of them available. Kugelwagens. It's just Airfix did it in 32nd with like Monty's Humber and other vehicles. Just everybody else went 35th, so I think they're now trying to make them a little bit smaller so they're more manageable, but then you can do perfect dioramas with them.
The main reason for 135th and why it existed was back in the 1950s, and here's an interesting little factoid for you. Tamiya began producing plastic tank kits that could be motorised. They initially designed these kits to fit small electric motors and gearboxes, specifically the ones that they already had for toy tanks. To make everything fit, including the two D-cell batteries, motors and gears, although keeping the model to a manageable desktop size, they scaled the tanks to come out to roughly 1/35th. So that's why we have the scale, is to actually fit a D-size battery. And that's why it's gone away from 1/32nd, which actually, when you work out 1/72nd, 1/48th, etc., it should be 1/32nd to actually be correct. But because of Tamiya insisting on it fitting two D-cell batteries, that's why we've got 1/35th. Moving on, DBMK has previewed their 1/32nd Hawker Sea Fury FB11. There have been a lot of images on social media of the pre-production models being built, and they look absolutely superb. Apparently they're making a few minor tweaks, but they're virtually ready for release. They've announced the decal options which will be in the box, which are 3 Royal Navy Fleet Air Arms schemes, 2 from 805 Squadron Royal Australian Navy, 1 in silver trim, the other in dark blue, both from Australian Navy display teams. There's also an 870 Squadron Royal Canadian Navy machine, and finally an 860 Squadron Dutch Navy display team aircraft from the Aerobats, which is a really obscure but really colourful version of the Fury. Okay, ICM has a new tool release on the way, namely a 148th Dornier DO217 K1. 4 marking options included in this one, and it's due for release in May, so should hopefully hit the shelves as we actually launch this pod. Qatari's announced their next project, which is a 1/32nd scale Hawker Hurricane Mark 1 early. That's the one with the fabric wings rather than the metal wings, with the release date of the end of 2025, so hopefully we might see it on the shelves at Telford later in the year. KP has released a 1/72nd scale Aero S106, which is a license-built MiG-21 F-13. Comes with 4 Czechoslovakian Air Force schemes spanning from the 1960s to the 1980s, priced at €17.39, which isn't a bad price for a new model of the MiG-21. So that's probably one for looking out for the 72nd fans. Also in 72nd, Modelsvit is releasing a 1/72nd Dassault Mirage G801, which was the swing-wing twin-engine prototype. 3 of which were built, 2 twin-engine and 1 single-engine from memory. But Tamiya's completed their F-35 lineup with the release of the 1/72nd Lockheed Martin F-35C, which is the US Navy version, so that now gives you the options for the A, B and C variants in 72nd. And finally for aircraft, Roden is releasing a new tool 1/144th Convair XC99, which was the passenger freight version of the B-36 bomber. So Mike, I believe you've been delving into the internet and have come up with some new decals that are being released.
That's right, Brownie. There is a decal company called Uprise Serbia. They are doing some decal sets for the upcoming 32nd Sea Fury from DBMK. So they're doing a Canadian set. They're also doing a Cuba set. And they're also doing a Hawker Sea Fury set, which includes Iraq, Pakistan and Egypt, all in 32nd scale.
Oh, Iraq, that's interesting. So obviously you're going to have to probably potentially modify some of the panel lines on the model, because as the Iraqis never had Sea Furies, they had Fury ISS, which stood for Iraqi single-seater. They never had the wing fold on those aircraft.
That's correct, Brownie.
Just something to watch out for that may be lost in the mist of time. Have they got anything else they're coming out with?
Yeah, there's quite a few. They're doing decals for the English Electric Lightning for Saudi Air Force. Again, available in all scales, including 32nd. They have done the Saudi Hawks display team, which is that beautiful green and white display markings. They are doing also Mirage 2000. They're doing a Dassault Rafale in 32nd. So unless they know something we don't, which is quite intriguing. There's also a set for the Hawker Hunter, but that's just the famous one from the FGA-9 that went through Tower Bridge and was reprimanded for it. They're also doing 8 decal sets for the British Phantom, which is FG1 and FGR2, and there are some absolute corking schemes on there. And they're also doing the P8 Poseidon as well in 72nd and 144th, which might tie in with Academy's release of the Poseidon, which is due around about May and June.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of a 1/32nd Rafale. I've not seen or heard anything about a 32nd. 48th, yes, but I can't see or find anything referenced from 1/32nd.
Yeah,
There's a 3D print that's been announced, but I can't see anyone doing any decals for a 1/32nd 3D print.
I wonder if it's going
Interesting.
to be Jetmads, because Jetmads do the weird and obscure aircraft. So they did a 32nd Vigan. They've done
48th Neptune.
Yep. There was I'm sure there was an 18th scale F5. Why anybody would want something that big, I do not know. But yeah, they just seem to be coming out with some corkers. They say they've got it 144 scale, 72nd, 48th, and 32nd. So they must be knowing something that we don't.
Fingers crossed. I'll keep the French fans happy anyway.
Oh, you can't beat a Rafale.
Oh, you can use a Typhoon.
I was going to say that.
Moving on to military vehicles, Dragon is re-releasing their 135th VK4502 bracket P close bracket H self-propelled gun from 2011. This time round it comes with magic tracks. I don't know if it does tricks or it actually does it self-assembly, but we'll find out in time. A 3D printed gun muzzle with accurate rifling and an aluminium barrel, which makes me wonder what primer you use on that for aluminium in a model. A little bit of a curveball. They're also re-releasing the VK4502 bracket P close bracket V variant with all the same goodies as the H which we just mentioned. Gecko Models has released a 135th Bedford OYD. This is the classic 3-ton 4x2 GS truck with a simulated wooden cargo body. This comes with 4 decal options and photo etch parts. Moving on, IBG is bringing back their 135th Panzerkampfwagen 2 Ostwehr A1, take that Mr. Goldfinch, as a limited edition. It's a repop of their 2023 release, but they haven't said what makes this one special yet, so stay tuned. Tacom has announced 2 new kits. First, the 135th M4A1 bracket 76 close bracket HVSS Sherman. It includes photo etch, metal barrel, working suspension, workable tracks and a figure. Second off their ranks is a 135th M1 Super Sherman, again with a metal barrel but what looks like resin stowage parts. A release date of before the end of 2025 has been announced, so another one to look out for the armour fans. And Trumpeter is going big, literally, with a 1/16th scale German Leopard 2 A6 MBT. The hull is going to be slide moulded. Kit includes 1,300 parts, including individual link tracks, along with metal and photo etch components. It's priced at €156.40 and is scheduled for a release in mid to late October 2025. Finally, for armour, Mung, or Meng, or Menge, or however you want to pronounce it. I believe Mung is the correct pronunciation. I've been reliably informed by a Japanese friend. If you like, are releasing a 172nd Russian T-72B3M main battle tank. Ideal for making those dioramas with the completed model displayed in more parts than the original kit. Think about it. And now for something a little sci-fi. Adventures in Plastic AIP are releasing a new 1144 Thunderbird 2. Includes the Firefly. That's the tracked vehicle which was used for firefighting and debris clearance from the International Rescue Fleet. I must admit that was one of the things that really sparked my interest in modelling, was actually sat on a Saturday morning watching all the Jerry Anderson, Captain Scarlet, Thunderbirds, Space 1999, looking at the models of those. Let's wrap up this section with reference books. As an aircraft modeller, these are the books which have caught my eye over the last few weeks. Help us out by suggesting quality reference books by emailing in if you're an armour fan, or better so, an armour publisher. Give us some clues. Okay, KLP is a name that you probably won't have heard of before, but you need to check out their publications. Available online only as digital reference material, the quality is stunning versus the cost. Their latest publication is for the fourth in the line for the F4 Phantom. That's a lot of falls in a row. And this covers the build of the Tamiya 148 F4B by Jeff Coughlin. Price is $15 Australian for a 115-page book. Again, it's an e-book, but the information is stunning. Why it makes more sense than ordinary books, I'll come to in just a second. Book 1 covered the FG1 version of the Phantom. It has 61 pages of walk-around photographs, 20 colour profiles, and in total 366 pages for $20 Australian. You try and get that much reference material for that price. But here is the main reason I love the KLP Publications docs. Once you've bought the book, a new version comes out with either an update or a correction is released. You log back in to your account and you get a free update. So as long as you've actually still got your account, you get free updates for life for the publications you've bought, which is absolutely superb. Kevin, who owns KLP, is going to be coming on in a few episodes' time to discuss the range, so I won't steal all his thunder. But do yourself a favour, have a look at www.klp.com and I promise you won't regret it. I've already bought 6 of his titles so far, and I'm sure there's more to come. And their upcoming 132nd Tamiya F-16 build book is next on my hit list when it's released. Wing Leader has several new titles. Part 3 of the Hawker Typhoon, Halifax Part 2, which covers the late Merlin engine versions, which is being released on May the 8th, and a new subject for the line, which is the Armstrong Whitworth Whitley. These books are absolutely fantastic, close-up photographs and detail, which not only gives you the modeler expert reference material, but explains what some of the lumps, bumps and things on the aircraft actually did. Detail and Scale have just released the first part in a series of the P-51 Mustang, with part 1 covering the Allison engine versions, which includes the NA-73X prototype, P-51A, including the Photo Reconnaissance F6A and F6B versions, and early RAF Mustangs from the Mark I and Mark II. When released, Part 2 will cover the Merlin engine P-51B and C, and Part 3 the P-51D. But for now, Part 1 is currently available in printed format in Kindle, Kobo, Google Play eBooks, or Apple Book formats. And finally, thank goodness my voice gives out, Guideline Publications has expanded their Warpaint series with 6 new entries into the list. Edition 142 is the Dassault Mirage F1. 143 is the Boeing B-29 and B-50 Superfortress. 144 is the Mill Mi-4 Hound. 145 is the Percival Pembroke Prince and Sea Prince. 146 the Grumman A6 Intruder and EA6B Prowler, and the latest addition to the ranks is the Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar.
Too many kits? It's beyond the Box Mart, where unwanted stash gets swapped, not sold. No cash, just trades. Over to you, Tim.
Beyond the Box Mart, it's a little play on the Exchange and Mart newspaper, if you can remember that. Think of it as kind of modeller's classified section, but with a twist. So there's no money changes hands here. That's the rule. This is all about trading. So, we don't want to see any cash being flashed around. So if you're outside the UK and wondering, what am I on about? Exchange and Mart was the kind of newspaper that you could pick up, and it's similar to Craigslist in the US or Gumtree for our Aussie and Kiwi listeners. And Japan has Mercari. So you get that kind of picture. It's where people list things they've got and they don't really want anymore, and they want to change them. Okay, so Beyond the Box Mart isn't about cash or bidding wars, so it's not like an online bidding auction. It's a nod to good old-fashioned swaps, like the glory days of multicoloured swap shop on Saturday morning telly. Remember that? I can see people YouTubing that one. Okay, so just like the show, Beyond the Box Mart is about community, sharing the hobby, clearing the stash, and maybe scoring that kit you've been after for ages. So, how does it work? Well, each week we'll open a segment where listeners can write in 2 simple things. Number 1, what you've got that's you're ready to let go of. Could be a kit you'll never build, decals you've duplicated, or aftermarket sets that you've bought by mistake, or a kit that you've bought by mistake. Put in number 2, what you'd like in return. Could be specific kits, or just a general theme. I'm looking for Cold War era jets, or I'm after some 148 pilot figures. So we'll read a handful of the most interesting or fun submissions on the podcast and post the full swap listings on our website and socials. We'll connect people who want to trade, and you take it from there. Now, I want to be absolutely clear, no cash. This is a trade only zone. You send something, you get something back. It's about community spirit, not profits. The minute money gets involved, it changes the vibe, and frankly, we're not here for that. Also, it's based on trust. We're not acting as middlemen or mediators, just facilitators. So be kind, be fair, and be honest with the condition of your stuff. Think of it like a handshake over the workbench, even if it's across the world. You might have that Academy F8 Crusader sitting in the stash for 5 years and somebody else is desperately searching for it. Meanwhile, they've got a spare Hasegawa Skyhawk that you've been craving. That's the magic of the mart. So, if you're up for it, drop us an email at info@beyondtheboxart.com with the subject line Beyond the Box Mart. Include what you're offering and what you'd like in exchange and your general information. So, just so folks, if they're dealing with local postage or international, we'll kick off with the first round in the next episode. So start digging through those shelves and drawers. And, well, if you've got a fun story from a past swap, or maybe something odd and wonderful you've traded for the old days, send that in too. Maybe we'll start a segment called Strangest Swap Ever. That's all for now, but I can't wait to see what you'll all dig out of the stashes. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming. Now, start swapping.
Welcome to WIP, where bold intentions meet plastic reality, timelines vanish, and every kit is one step away from the well of tears.
What we've got in progress, work in progress, WIP from the aviation parlance. So let's go around the room and we'll start with Tim. Other than a well-known HMS ship just gathering dust, what have you got on your bench at the moment?
Well, we were talking about the 148 Jaguar for Murphy's. I recently acquired, and he's looking at me now, Mr. Housley. He sold me, he sold me quite an old version, and it's a brilliant kit. It's a 1980s, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a GR1/3, and I've not even decided what version to do yet, but it is a really good kit. It's aeroplane shaped at the moment, if I can get technical for a moment. So the wings and the fuselage are all in place, and there's a mask on the canopy. So it's taking shape now. Like a lot of modelers, when you say what's on the bench, we're not talking about one thing. We're not talking about one project. And another one about, I talk a lot about throwing yourself a curveball. And I've got a 1975 model of a 1907 Rolls Royce. Maybe remember Fix brought out the whole sort of classic cars of the time, which my friend at the time built, and I never got into them. But now I've collected a few, so they're the two projects that are on my bench at the moment.
Was that the yellow one on the box art?
No, that was the Dirac. Now it's interesting now because, when we do research and we look at war films and what have you, this is actually a 1904 Dirac was used in the film Genevieve from 1903. So I've recorded that. And so I might try and do a recreation of the John Gregson film from 1950s with that one.
Sounds great.
Okay, so what have you got on the bench then, Paul?
Right. So for me, it's quite strange. I'm doing two items amongst all the other shelf queens that I've got. I've started a new kit from Hella, and it's the Maxi Catamaran PlayStation. So it's back to the PlayStation years. It's one of those things where do you know how you occasionally you like to test yourself to see how far your skills will go? Well, this particular kit, it's got everything unimaginable that's in it. No, first one, the styrene is your usual Hella type of plastic. It's quite hard,
Pretty brittle, yeah.
and if you bend it too much, it will go.
Mm.
So that's true.
How did you find
This
that?
particular kit.
No, how did you find out if you bend it too far,
Oh,
it goes?
oh yeah. Actually, aside, right, I always had a bit of a snap test with plastic, and what I found is early doors airfix kits, and this is going back to the 70s. I used to test it by trying to bend the sprue and see whether or not it actually just bends or if it actually just snaps, because you tend to find the harder plastics will just snap.
Mm.
See, now that's an interesting point that you make, because a lot of people have complained recently that the Airfix plastic has been quite flexible in comparison to, if you say, the Tamiya or the Hasegawa plastic, which is easier to actually sand for the fact it's actually more rigid.
I'm not sure what the compounds are, but there is a definite difference in how you glue those things in terms of using Tamiya thin. You can get some with the early Airfix kits, which actually glue quite well together. And then some of the later ones, which the plastic, it's usually the grey stuff, actually, the recent stuff, that tended to, if you apply too much Tamiya thin, it really welds and melts the plastic completely. So I found,
I quite like it when it does that. I use it as a filler, the little sausage of plastic that kind of comes up, and just let it sprue, just let it fully go off for a day or so, and it's great.
So so sorry, that was a slight diversion. So I thought I'd try my skills at this catamaran. And as I said, it's a kit of many strange parts. Least of all, the fact that there is actually an iron-on. It's not even a decal. It's like an iron-on T-shirt type thing,
Transfer.
where you actually iron onto a piece of mesh. The decal of, well, I think it's the logo of the PlayStation thing. So yeah, it's going to be a test of skills, this one.
And you're ironing.
And me ironing, which isn't brilliant at the best of times. So that's my first one. And the second one, which is on my bench, is a resin figure of a Wampa.
Oh, sorry?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say that?
A Wampa. It's the figure of in Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
The polar bear-y type one that took Luke Skywalker out when he was on his town.
Oh, the white furry thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's a Wampa. Not an Oompa Wampa, but a Wampa.
Oh, we're going to get emails complaining about calling it a white furry thing, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. So I bought that one as a standalone figure, and it's just something to do, something to paint, which is it's completely cast. It's a great little figure. It's just one of those things to do to take your mind off actually building anything. So they're my two anyway.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on to Mark then. Other than dust, what have you got?
Well, I have got, like we mentioned earlier, the palette cleansers. A very old, I think it's a 1963 vintage kit from Hella. And this is the Moreau 117, which is that ugly little thing. So, do you know what?
Looks something like a tiger moth fuselage.
Yeah, it's a little weird thing, but it's gone together really well considering its age. As you can see, there's probably one or two seam marks in it. Whereas this is, I've treated it for what it is. It's just something to throw together. Don't worry about the seam lines, because I tend to agonize over seam lines and how the hell they pop back every time you put a bit of paint on. I don't know, and you swear to God you've got rid of them. But there's that one.
Ghost seams are a
Oh,
nightmare.
absolutely. And then I've got another, and this is a PM kit. So I don't know if any of you know PM. It's a very cheap Turkish, and this is just
could be ropey
well.
sometimes.
Do you know? I've done a couple of these, and this is a little pre ME163. I think it was a lipish thing, but it's the DFS 194. And I think it was all of 6 pieces. So the build was pretty quick.
Fun.
And it went together well. And again, it's just a case of I tend to use these as experimental things. So the next time I get some new sort of paint or marker or whatever, that's kind of where I play. And, you know.
So obviously, for our listeners who can't actually see what you were holding up, you're looking at something like an ME163 Comet.
Yeah, in 72nd
but
scale.
it's actually the gliding version.
No,
is
it's a jet. It's a little jet on the back there.
Okay.
See it? It's it was jet powered. Regarding the history of it, I know nothing.
Well, that's the main thing. If you get the enjoyment out of it, that's the main part of it.
And I keep doing that thing where I think, right, I'm not quite good enough yet to do that Qatari Spitfire. I'm gonna. You know, because one of the things I've noticed recently, because of my lack of getting on with stuff, is I feel like I've lost some of the skills I had, you know, over the years of weathering the painting, and it's only the last, I don't know, year or so I'd have had some. I always used to do really well with decals, never had any problems yet. The first time you bugger up a decal or you have something that's not quite right. Next time, and then the next one's the same, and then the one after, and then you end up being in fear of it, you know. Oh my God, you know. So yeah.
Well, it's ironic you should say about the Qatari Spitfire, because the very first model that I started coming back to the hobby last year was the Qatari 132nd Spitfire.
Oh right. Okay.
I thought to get back in, everyone's raving about how good the aircraft is. And it is absolutely exquisite. The detail, the fit, the way they've actually designed the fuselage to actually have minimal seam lines visible in all the normal places is absolutely unbelievable. And turning the clock back to the last time I actually put plastic and glue together is probably the best part of 35 years. And the advances of computer-aided design and the way they've actually constructed the model is just light years different. But listening to all the wonderful pods we actually have available to us at the moment is a case of everyone says life's too short to build, I shall use the term, old kits. And I must admit, I
disagree with that one.
I know you're going to go, but getting back into it and actually trying to actually prove to yourself that you can still do it with some degree of finesse. And I must admit, the enjoyment I've had out of actually building the thing, even though it's still sat in the paint barn waiting to actually get the airbrush out and have a go at it, has been immense so far. So yes. But also the other item on my desk is the Airfix 148th Anson. Again, another fantastic kit. But yeah, it's with what you can get with aftermarket these days, compared to obviously back when I finished, you're looking at PP Aero parts, the stuff that Tim Perry and his father actually came up with, the photo etch brass, which was innovative.
How far on with that one are you?
But
how far on with that one are you? How far on with it?
It is probably close enough to be primed, hopefully within the next week or so. So it's virtually there.
One of them kits though, you definitely need a masking set.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the number of windows.
Yes. Yeah. Having already painted the turret by using a masking set, yes, I know about that, and masking the inside and the outside of the perspex. You certainly learn about masking techniques very quickly.
The inside, well done.
Oh, so, yeah.
There's dedication for you.
With the Anson, with the turret, etc., it's just so obvious that if you actually didn't paint it, it would have actually stood out like a sore thumb. It really would have done. But yes, so far, so good.
So with that one, Paul, is it one with a detailed interior?
Yes. Yes. I'm not sure for those obviously listening will actually get any benefit, but there are seat belts. There is the Quinta interior. I've actually put some. This is an aircraft representative from 10 Air Gunnery School, which was at RAF Walney during the war, and knowing that how the surface of that airfield is, it'll be mud tracked through the aircraft from actually get people getting in. The guns I've actually replaced. I've replaced virtually the whole interior, to be fair, compared to what actually Airfix supplied in the kit. But yes, again, getting back into the hobby and actually replacing the parts and actually realising that I still have some degree of skill, in inverted commas, it was actually quite enjoyable. But
No, I love the interiors of these newish Airfix kits.
Yes.
Where on the recent releases over the past few years, the interiors have been brilliant.
Yeah.
However, I do find that I'm one of the builder types who, if you can't see it, what's the point of doing it?
Yeah.
But if they produce so much detail in there, one thing which gets me is, why don't they produce half a fuselage, which is clear?
Didn't
Some
want
do.
to do that back in the day.
Trumpeter have done it. And
Trumpy
Zuki
do
Mora
it,
did
yeah.
it. Zuki have done it with some of their, where they've got all the internals that you can build in. Definitely on the nick.
I mean, for me, it's one of those things where you've designed all this great stuff inside, and there's modelers out there who are braver than I am, who will completely go to town on it and produce an absolutely impeccable.
Airfix Wimpy. It's got the full everything, and then you close it up and you can hardly see any of it.
That's it. And for me, you may as well go down the path of, well, I'll give you half a side which is clear, and you can see the stuff. But
it's a valid point. Yeah. It's a very valid point when you actually think about the time that you actually spend working on an interior. And I must admit, it was always something that stopped me back in the day, for the fact that, you put a decal on the instrument panel, which was virtually the only thing you got with a stick and a seat. But now you can actually go down to everything's pre-printed. You literally actually just do the cockpit sidewalls. You almost don't have to paint the interior now with what some of the materials and the kits that are available to you. And it's a case of how far do you actually go? Because again, people go to the nth degree doing an ME-109 cockpit in 72nd. And you know very well that when you actually put the canopy on, or even if you have the canopy open, there's so little you can actually see when you've actually completed and put the fuselage together. Yes, Tim?
There is a really good kit, the Airfix 148 P51D. Bubble top, so quite a lot of interior detail to be seen. And they do a fantastic job with the seat belts, which the pilot's seat fits together, and it's difficult to explain. You've got to see it before, actually, but it's a really, you'd swear you were putting some photo etch parts or resin detail in there. But it's,
I must admit, for the Qatari Spit, I've actually used a set of the HGW models fabric seatbelts.
Yeah.
Which come with virtually every single component of a seatbelt as a separate either photo etch part, or the actual belt itself is fabric, and you can either use decals or 3D printed components to actually put the fasteners for where the holes for the belt actually attach on there. And I think I counted up something like 35 components on the seatbelt for the Spit I'm building, and thinking, how far do you actually go? But having seen the result of it inside the Spit with the door open, it is well worth it. And the quality is absolutely exquisite. Again, as I said, coming back from the day when Airfix used to actually glue, or rather, they moulded the seat belts onto the seat, and then they gave you a pilot to actually sit on top of it. So then you had to cut the backside off the pilot to actually fit onto the seat to actually get it inside with the canopy closed, etc. It's all completely different. But with Qatari, they give you two seats of the Spit, one with, so you can actually mould the seat belts or paint the belts, or you can actually put your own belts on top.
That's a great option, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember, talking about old kits, I still remember the days of balancing the pilot on 2 prongs on some of the old kits with his head poking out. And that was the limit of your cockpit, really, wasn't it?
It was a kind of nod to say, well, you know, there was a guy actually flying this, and then Matchbox, they put a seat in. It looked like a 2-seater settee with the pilot, which was it looked like a ventriloquist dummy sitting on it, and that was your cockpit detail.
The early Frog ones, I've got a Lightning P1, and that is the sort of looking into the cockpit. It's solid, and it's just got a blob on it, which represents the pilot's head, and that's pretty much it. You know,
didn't Hasegawa used to do that with their? I seem to remember their early F-86 was exactly the same, with literally a pilot's head,
the Comet
molded on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But obviously,
we've come a long way.
Well, I must admit, I'm with Paul on that. I mean, I was never, one of the things I was never very patient with was cockpits, and I tended to close everything up, and you know, because when I used to do the model shows, you know, you'd see somebody that spent absolutely weeks or, you know, hours and hours and hours on a cockpit, and somebody comes and has a look at it, and they literally spend 2 seconds looking in there, and that's it. They move on. Yeah, there's hours and hours gone into that, you know.
Yes.
And somebody looks at it just for a couple of seconds, says how nice it is, and then they're looking at the next thing, you know, they want to know what paint you've used, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I didn't mention in our section just now was a new tool that I've actually got my hands on, which is the Ammo T800 driller. It is a metal equivalent to a Dremel, battery operated, but the speed control on this is absolutely fantastic. So hopefully you can hear the speed. That's at 3,500 RPM, but you can actually bring the speed down.
Well, it's the downward that really...
In 100 RPM. And it actually drops right down.
Yes. So now...
And it would actually go down to 100 RPM. Yeah. So where you have issues with plastic melting, etc., because you've got the speed too fast, you've got absolutely perfect control.
What kind of chuck is it?
It has 2 different types. You can either use for tools with reaming out and precision cutting, etc., or you've actually got an ordinary chuck that you can actually put in there as well. So you can actually get small micro drill bits in as well. So it's fantastic controllability. And I've had a go with it on a few bits of plastic so far. It's absolutely brilliant. And the other advantage you got with it, if you're using it for if you're painting or doing anything like that with effects, is you can actually put it in reverse. In the UK, it's around about 85, I think it's retailing for. But I got mine direct from Ammo. So there's a little bit of price to it, but the controllability and the actual what you're actually going to get out of it compared to the Dremels, which are in sort of a couple of £100 mark. It's a fantastic piece of kit.
Yeah, well, I have a Proxon, and I think by the time you bought all the bits and pieces with it, because you've got with a Proxon, you have to have a transformer, so a step down, and then to get mine running really slow, I had to buy a foot pedal, which had a separate speed control on it, so I could.
This tool has everything literally on the handle. Plus, it comes with a set of polishing pads, sanding bits. There's some milling bits in there as well. So, yeah, it's a complete package. So it's well worth having a look at.
Sounds great.
I'm a bit of a tightwad, so I don't know if I spend.
I can see Wongy actually going out and getting one of these in no time flat, as I said.
I just got this the other week from one of the model show Display, and it was 25 quid. I mean, that this is a weird little sanding nodule thing. So you get a load of little circular sanders that of obviously of various grits and stuff. And again, I don't know if you
is it on?
It's honestly the little blue thingy, so you can.
Oh yeah.
That's gone a little bit fast and then turn it off. Okay. So it's got about 3 or 4 different. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It's got 3 different speeds.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have your USB-C charging on the back.
All right.
So it takes about 20 minutes, half an hour.
Anyway, with that, I think we've just about exhausted what's on our bench at the moment and a little bit plus.
It's time for Wongi's Wisdom, guaranteed to improve your models or at least make you feel better about them.
Right, okay, so for all you guys out there, and I'd like to do a few tips, and being a cheapskate like Mark Housley, I'm going to talk to you about wet pallets.
Am I going to be the butt of this? It's just going to carry on.
Wet pallets. What are wet pallets? Well, if you've ever tried painting using brushes, those hairy sticks, and you are going straight out of a pot, this would apply to you guys who use a lot of acrylics. I used to use quite a bit of the old Citadel range because they've got absolutely superb coverage for painting figures, etc. But when you put them onto any sort of surface, they do go off really quickly. And a wet palette just basically gives you that extra amount of time that you can actually paint with. And to do that, it's quite, you can buy these things, from Evil Bay place, or even go online and buy a Temu version. But I prefer the cheap and cheerful way, which is going off to your local Chinese takeaway and ordering yourself something nice to eat. Get the plastic tray with the lid and utilize that. So what I would suggest to you is do said stage one, and then get yourself probably a half-inch. My God, that's going back to the imperial days.
15 millimeter.
15 millimeter of sponge, and also go into the kitchen and raid yourself some of the baking parchment paper as well. So to construct your wet palette, in essence, you cut out the sponge and just place it into the tray itself, and then just add yourself some water. That will keep the sponge damp, and then cut out a piece of parchment paper, and it has to be this baking stuff, not your regular A4 printer paper. That will just soak up. But if you have this, I think it's silicon based, is it? Yeah, there's a slight tinge of silicon to it. You place the paper onto the sponge, and then you can paint using that as your palette. And then when you finish painting, or you need a breather or whatever, you just put the lid on it, and it would keep your paint fresh for at least a week. That's what I found. Any more than that, and it becomes a bit iffy in terms of the actual paint itself. So that's my tip of the episode here, is get yourself a homemade wet palette.
Well, this tightwad went and spent 15 quid on an actual wet palette. So,
oh, you should have spoken
yours,
to me
Wongi.
sooner. I could have taken you down to the Chinese takeaway with me.
Please support veterans, service personnel and blue light services through Scale Modelling Therapy. Visit modelsforheroes.org.uk, where plastic, paint and purpose come together.
So moving on then, we are going to talk about shows, and Wongi, you've just come back from Model World Live in Birmingham, I believe.
Yeah, it's a fantastic day. I was just there for the one day. It's a 2-day show, and it covers everything from the model railway types down to radio controlled vehicles. There are shipbuilders down there, as well as the plastic modelers like ourselves.
Now, I haven't been to that show before, but it sounds very similar to the old model engineering exhibition that used to be held at Wembley back in the day.
Pretty similar. My visions of the old model engineering shows is blokes with lots of Meccano and some interesting constructions. But with this one, it's very much a show which demonstrates the best of what people have got to offer in their respective hobbies. A case in point was, and the guys are absolutely lovely to talk to. I went to this, and you are not going to believe it, but it was an O-gauged model railway layout, and to say it's big is an understatement, because the chaps there who were putting the show on, they actually showed me their transport, which was a articulated lorry, and they actually had to offload their layout using a forklift. It was that big.
Sounds like you're getting your wallet out, to be fair, needing a forklift.
Oh, well, it's these guys. I mean, how they will set up and, dismantle the thing is, I don't know. They must do it down to a T.
I'll get his wallet out. Are you having a laugh?
Yeah, it's huge, absolutely huge. But to be honest, it does look very, very good close up. The detailing they've got on there is superb.
There used to be a show at somewhere past through Stockport down the A6 on the way to Lyme Park, and that was a more orientated towards the RC and the Hornbys and the train stuff. And we did it one year, and that did have a pool. It was in a sports centre, and it had a pool, and that was full of submarines and boats and ships and all kinds of stuff going on in there. But personally, what I came away from there with was it was great for buying stuff for doing dioramas, all the stuff, all the scenery stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There was absolutely tons of stuff that you wouldn't normally see at a normal everyday plastic show. There's a guy that's at most of them. The guy does it. Is it Tremendous?
Oh, Tremendous, yes.
Yeah,
he's based in Sale, isn't he?
He's a local lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
He turns up at most of them, and he's pretty good. What the stuff he sells.
I think for me, the interesting bits were, apart from the models, was looking at the technology which is involved in the model train industry. It's
You
just
mean the
incredible.
electronic side of things.
The electronic side is just
that's
unbelievable.
your bag anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I like an LED or two, don't I?
Yeah.
But the stuff they had was just mind blowing. They've got controllers and microchips which can operate certain things. It's one of those which takes you to a different side of the hobby. And talking about a different side of the hobby as well, I had a good look round. There was a company called Model U, and they had a setup there which was, you could have a miniature version of you scanned, and they will print you in various sizes for different costs, obviously. I actually did think about doing it. I think it was about £40 to have the scan done. Yeah.
If you did a one-to-one of me, God knows what that'd be.
Well, I did think I might have to go on to a exercise regime first of all, due to the resin costs that might come out in printing. But it's a clever idea, because you
can they make certain bits bigger?
Well, I don't know. It'll have to be adjusted in the file after.
Can you be molded in a kind of like a Star Wars figure?
You can't. Good, yeah. Well, that's it. They did say that you can. They had various costume things that as railway workers, obviously, because they were gearing up to that market. But I'm sure if you took your own costumes down there, you could be scanned, as they say. But I think it was a great idea. But it was, for me, it was a bit pricey. But if I wanted, 1,000 me's being made, it's the only way to go.
So what was the actual cost for getting into the show then?
So the cost for me was £16 to get in. For your £16, you get a show booklet, which is the usual standard, and that's it. The other thing which I would say is take your own food, because the venue stuff is pricey to say the least.
And obviously, for those that are not aware, the venue was the NEC, the National Exhibition Centre at Birmingham.
Yes, we were in hall, I think exhibition hall 2, which was interesting because I did follow the crowd, and I did think to myself, there's quite a an age demographic of older ladies and younger ladies, and it turned out that it was actually the Torville and Dean show, and I was going the wrong way.
I did the same thing happened to me when I was in retail footwear. So there was suited and booted, and I managed to get sort of like stuck in the middle of a group of Anthrax fans.
That's a rock band then, Tim.
Yeah, it's one
Right.
of those beat combos we used to hear about from Mr. Wong.
Yes.
And the other, obviously, the comparison is compared to Scale Model World at Telford. What would we be looking at size-wise in comparison?
Size-wise, compared to Scale Model World, I think you're looking at Hall 1 and 2 together, which...
Okay, and how much of that would actually be scale models for the main area of interest, obviously, for
right,
the pod?
you would probably be looking at half of Hall 2.
Okay,
yeah,
so reasonably small then in total. But you have the advantage of actually looking, as Mark said, at other traders, other techniques, other ways of actually creating effects, etc., which you probably wouldn't actually get from just going to a show like Telford in comparison.
Absolutely. And the other thing which I noticed as well was there were groups, because generally at Telford it's the IPMS or related teams. But at this particular show, there were groups who were, should we say, non-IPMS affiliates. A really good one, a display put on by RAF Bryce Norton Modelling Club, and they modelled, funny enough, one of them was a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just aircraft; they modelled anything. I think the highlight for me during the day was actually going down, and it was quite a strange row, really. It was a row of single tables, and it was just one person sat there, because all the other tables tend to be, the display tables tend to be groups of or clubs, and these single ones were they were the guys who actually built the models for Airfix Model World magazine. So you could actually speak to the guys who produce all the, the wonderful work that you see in the magazines, and you can have a chat with them about various techniques that they've done and critique their models, which is very little critique because they know their stuff, and have a look at it and talk about deadlines, which there certainly are some, but they were great to chat to. The other highlight was basically Spitfire, seeing the one-to-one scaled, the original scaled Spitfire, which they actually had on display down there, which was I think it was a complete rebuild of a Spitfire using real parts. So it wasn't one of your fiberglass replicas.
I spoke to Mike about that. He said, "Hey," and because I was saying, was it the one that they had at Telford one year? Which was definitely plastic, wasn't it?
Yes. So, yeah.
It looked good, but it was definitely not a real one. When he went, no, this was.
It was the real
Mark
McCoy.
9. Yeah, he said it was.
I must admit, having looked at photographs of it yesterday and how they actually assembled it, it looked like it wasn't constructed in the same way that the original was actually made, but it was more designed for ease of moving around and actually putting in shows like the old RAF exhibition flight, where they used to have their plastic aircraft, which were basically in kit form, which basically slot together in a short span period of time.
So chances are there's probably not got an engine in that thing then, has the heavy lump? It wouldn't need it, would it?
Oh yeah,
no.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I noticed it was available for hire for different events, etc. But yes, it certainly looked the part, and it certainly had more of a flair to it than the fiberglass replicas. The one thing we haven't actually talked about, other than just sort of glancing at the different type of traders, is the number of traders that were actually at the show, Wongy. Were there many compared to, say, the IPMS Bolton show or the Telford?
In terms of general traders, there was quite a lot there. You had everybody's trying to sell you a train set to the Javis type stuff of modeling materials, etc. Those guys were all there. In terms of plastic, it wasn't that big. The only one who I saw was Tiger Hobbies. Gary was there. He was there with his guys. There was a couple of others. I did notice that there was other traders who, the how can you best describe it? The construction Lego type stuff.
Yes.
Kobe, that's it. That's the word. They had a big trade stand there, which was quite nice. And then obviously you've got all the other elements with diecast cars and Oxford diecast were there in force. They had some good offers on their vehicles, which in essence they would make great diorama accessories. They're just the right scale. Well, if you build 172, that is.
Yes.
And they had lots and lots of radio control type people. They were there as well, selling the stuff. So I would say if you're going to go next year, you do need a 2-day ticket, because I only saw a portion of it. And I didn't even get to go and meet Pete Waterman either.
Oh, you should be so lucky. The other obvious thing with the NEC, and I don't know if you had problems, was the parking.
So parking-wise, funny enough, the public car park where I ended up first time around, the cheaper one, it was absolutely chock-a-block getting out at the end. And where I was on the express one, the one where they saw you come in, that one, I just flew out, basically. Not a delay at all. So it does have its, advantages. But when we were leaving, there was a lot of people coming in for a different show venue which was going on. So yeah, it's one of those places where parking is great. It's plentiful. There's a lot of it, but the signage for it is awful. That's the only thing I'd say. I did end up at Birmingham Airport at one point, because that's when you type in the postcode or the zip code in America into Google, it actually took me to the airport as opposed to the actual venue itself, which is,
How far away was that then?
At least half a mile away. But when you try to drive and look for signs, it gets tricky,
Especially when you're under a bit of pressure as well, with yourself, and you don't want the last thing you want when you go into a model show is driving around for half an hour before you, just because you're lost.
Yeah.
And it's an hour you're lost walking around and
seeing things.
buying things and stuff.
Well, to be honest, I did very, very well. I actually bought nothing.
Oh my God.
I know, and you'll understand why, because my fish and chips were too expensive. But yeah, other than that, Brownie, parking, loads of it. Just make sure you park in the right place. That's all.
Right, and not actually take the completely wrong car park where you have to pay twice.
Correct. Yes.
We don't know anyone who did that, do we?
No.
How much did it cost you again?
£27.
Well, Paul, I think that's a good place to actually wind up this episode. Number one, thank you for those that you actually stuck all the way through. We promise we'll get better. Practice makes perfect. That's it from us collectively, where the glue's strong, the ambition's stronger, and the instructions were optional. So we'll see you next time. Cheerio, everyone.
So it's a bit like Tinder for plastic.
You had to lower the tone. It took us this far to get in, but
Oh, I'm all up for that. I'm definitely up
tone.
for that. Yeah.
I thought Screwfix was a dating site. You know, I got the app and everything.
You were very disappointed,
Oh,
weren't
well, wall plugs half price though.
Got a great set of drills.